Have you ever felt overwhelmed by one of your children's aggression towards another? If so, you are not alone. In this video, I want to show you how a shift in approach can transform how your kids relate to one another, how they treat each other, and empower you as a parent to stop the hitting. The key to stopping that aggression, the hitting between siblings, is really understanding what's going on. And if you think about it, oftentimes at the root of sibling rivalry is a fight for a limited resource, and that limited resource is you. I mean, I guess they're right, but we work with what we have, and there's only one of me, and I'm assuming there's only one of you, so that's what we got. Ultimately, your kids want to be seen, they want to be loved, they want to know that you're there for them, that they're safe. It's not that deep, as one of my kids would say. One thing that I often see parents inadvertently doing is subtly comparing one child to another. So this can, for example, look like saying, well, your brother never has trouble sharing when he gets a new toy. Now, if you think about it, I know your intention was good, but how do you think he feels, right? None of us like to be compared to other people. We want to be appreciated for our strengths and for who we are, not how we are as compared to somebody else that we might know, and especially not how we are compared to somebody as close to us as a sibling. As you can imagine, or maybe you've seen it, that comparison can really breed resentment or jealousy between your kids, which leads to more hitting, so we don't want that. Instead, we want to shift the narrative to we all struggle sometimes, and whenever one of us struggles, all of us step in to help. Now, sometimes challenging moments are going to arise, and I want to dive into now a little bit about what you can do ahead of time. I think we all spend some time thinking about, as parents, how can we strengthen the relationship between our kids, and maybe we create rituals that help them learn to support one another. But what I don't think we think a lot about is how do we really lean in to support that child who at the moment is struggling more? And I think that's really, really important. It's not a secret, and so to pretend it's a secret just makes life harder for everybody. I remember when one of my kids was in middle schoolish, he was really struggling. He was struggling with behaviors at school, with relationships at home with his siblings, and I didn't know what to do. I reached out to my mentor, and she suggested that I do a once a month go away with him for 24 hours. I thought to myself, good God, that sounds like a lot and also a lot of money. But where I live, we have an amazing youth hostel system, and as it turns out, you can go as a family. So I did some research, and every month, once a month for several months, we explored a new hostel. And just the two of us went for 24 hours and had an amazing, connecting, fun time. During that time away, we did some special time, which I talk about in another video, but it wasn't all about what he wanted to do, but it was just me setting aside that time for him every month where we got to have that yummy connection. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, what about the other kids? And what does this have to do with sibling relationships? And isn't this going to make the sibling relationships worse? And I had the same fear. I thought, well, God, that's not fair. And even my kids said it's not fair. And what my mentor said to me was that I needed to shift my mindset. And that's now what I'm going to say to you. Because the mindset of it's not fair doesn't really help us address the problem. Fair doesn't mean same. I was faced with one child who was struggling more than the other two at that moment, and I needed a strategy to help him. Helping him was going to make all of our lives better, not just his. And so what I said to my kids is, hey, your brother's really having a hard time right now. And when any of us are having a hard time, we need to think about how to help that person so life can get better for all of us. And there are going to be times in your life when you struggle. And when that happens, you can be sure that we will create a plan to help you through it, just like we're helping your brother right now. And that sat really well with them. It was just fine. Another strategy that you can implement before the fact, before the hitting happens, is to really track the aggression. Sometimes we feel like it's happening all the time, it's coming out of the blue, coming out of nowhere. These are words that I hear from parents all the time. But in fact, that's not true. I'm fairly confident, after all these years of working with parents, telling you that there is always some kind of pattern. And when we identify that pattern or those patterns, we take ourselves out of that victim mentality and we empower ourselves to be able to make a plan for what to do in those situations where the hitting or the aggression tends to bubble up. One of the things that parents ask me all the time is, what do I say when my kid is exploding? And if that's a question you have, I would love for you to grab what I call the first 5 words that I will give to you in a script and then explain how to implement them in a really, really simple way. You can grab that at the link below. So, okay, that's all good and fine. This is what we do beforehand, but what happens when the you-know-what hits the fan? Then what? Yes, there are strategies that we can use in the heat of the moment. First and foremost, obviously, we want to make sure that everybody is safe. If somebody is really hurt, they need tending to. Most of the time, that's not what happens. Most of the time, it's our fear that is the biggest monster in the room. Once you've addressed any physical hurts that need taking care of, then we move into the emotional hurts. And what I want to make really clear is that both kids are hurting. Both kids are struggling in that moment. We have a real tendency to label one child a victim and one child an aggressor, and that is absolutely backwards in terms of getting us to our goals. It's not going to get us where we want to go. It's pitting them against one another rather than focusing on strengthening their relationship. So one thing that's really important to do is to not always, and again, this is after you make sure everybody's physically safe, to not always approach the quote-unquote victim child first. You really want to rotate who you go to. It doesn't have to be like on a chart. It doesn't have to be perfect. But in general, you don't want to have a pattern where you're only always going to one child or the other. You want them to see that you get that the child who hit was also upset and hurt and not feeling good about himself or connected to you, or whatever he was upset about, for whatever reason, he was struggling, and that behavior of hitting was a serious call for help. And then the other child is struggling in ways that we see as obvious. Both children need your attention. You don't have to do it one at a time. You can sit and look at one. The other one can be on you or nearby you or yelling at you from behind. It doesn't matter. And you can just focus your attention on one and listen to them as they have their upset. And then you can say, hey, I'm going to turn around for a moment. I'm going to listen to your brother, but you can stay right here with me and I will be back. And then you turn this way and you listen to his brother. And to be clear, you're not trying to get to the bottom of who did what first and who's at fault and who to blame. That's not the point. The point here is to use a tool called stay listening that we write about in our book, Listen, where we actually get to support the body's natural process of healing through the somatic release of hurts and feelings and upsets. It's a real gift, and if you do it regularly, you will see the hitting subside. A lot of times, if left to their own devices, once we've stay listened, once we've done all the things that I've talked about, our kids will move through their upsets and kind of forge ahead. Sometimes, however, you might notice that there's a rift in their relationship or there's resentment. And if that's the case, then we probably want to move in and suggest some sort of apology. Not a forced apology. I don't know about you, but I'm really not keen on somebody coming to apologize to me when they don't even feel sorry. That doesn't feel good at all. So I often say to kids and coach parents to say to kids, when you feel ready in your heart. It gives them the time to do whatever emotional healing they need to do to get to a place where they're actually they're feeling remorse and wanting to repair the relationship. Now, sometimes they might need a little nudge, but we tend to rush things. We tend to want it to happen right now. Say you're sorry. We don't need to rush. It might take a day. It might take a week. It's okay. The important thing is that we are focusing on relationship repair and that connection between them is what's really important. It's normal for kids to fight with each other, especially siblings. But if they're hitting each other, if they're hurting each other, we do need to step in and be proactive about stopping that aggression whenever we possibly can, inserting ourselves when we didn't get there in time and using the strategies that I've just presented, and when needed, encouraging apology. Now that we've talked a little bit about sibling aggression and how to address it, I want to share some thoughts with you on how to set limits with a strong-willed boy, which I'm guessing you might have. Click the video and let's do it.